Manticore versus Equinox versus Deus 2 versus Legend. All right, let's settle this once and for all. So we got 9 inches here, 9 inches. We move this to here. We have 10 inches. We move this to here. We have, give or take, 11 inches, right around. Just a heads up, you're going to hear me subtract an inch from that, but I'm wrong. Those were the official settings of the test: 9 inches, 10 inches, 11 inches. Silver is the most conductive metal. We have a 1943 silver quarter that we're going to stick in each one of these holes. And we have the finest fleet of detectors out there. We're going to put the Legend in this too. And we're going to see what hits what. All right, so for full perspective on this test, we're going to link to a video from the YouTube channel Gold Trails.
May I?
Yes, please. You're not finding your way.
Her target disappeared, and it's a pretty common problem. A lot of times it's either a piece of metal that's been affected by the halo effect or it's ground mineralization, one of the two. Have you ever heard any of us talk about the halo effect? Anybody that goes out prospecting?
No.
Okay. The halo effect is anything that's in the ground that will rust, corrode, deteriorate, whatever you want to call it. As it does that and oxidizes, it leaches into the ground. And as it leaches into the ground, it creates a conductive signal. So now you could have a tiny, tiny piece of metal, like a nail. Let's say a nail. And if you leave a nail out in the rain, it's going to rust. Same thing happens when it's under the ground. So as it leaches in the ground, it creates a big signal. And you go across it and you hear a big signal. But as soon as you start to dig down on it, you break that conductive layer, and the halo itself collapses. And suddenly your target disappears, or it goes to being a very, very weak target that you can't even hear. You know what? Keep hunting and just remember where that one's at, and we'll come back to it in a little bit.
Okay, sounds good.
We're going to wait about 30 minutes, let the ground settle down, let the conductivity just kind of settle back into the ground, go back over, swing across it, and see if it's a metal target.
It's important to note that my backyard is full of iron. My house is built in 1913, and there's nails all over the place here. Same thing with the garage. This is all iron in here. Please note that in the area of the test garden here, there's no iron activity. If you heard that little grunt to the left, that comes into play a little bit later. All right, so we're going to start in the most general of programs. So all-terrain general. And we have a comfortable sensitivity. Let's see if we could turn it up. 27. And I put the item in the ground already. So this is 8 inches Manticore. Got it. Equinox, we are running sensitivity of 24. No problem. Deus 2. So this one deserves a special mention. So let me show you something.
We managed to improve the signal. Let's move down to 50 centimeters.
Now, granted, they were using a bigger coil than what I am using, but 50 centimeters equates to close to 20 inches, and that happens under absolute perfect conditions. It should be noted that for the sake of a apples to apples comparison, I used the stock coils for all of these detectors. Okay, so now that you've seen that, my speaker is busted on the inside of this. I have to send it out. We're going to start in general, then we're going to get into the fancy programs. Gotta listen carefully. But it's getting it. All right, legend. There's clearly still some iron left in the ground. Reading some of that iron too. Okay, but it's getting it. All right, so we're putting this in the 9-inch hole here. And let's test. Dear Merrill, that's not the 9-inch hole, that's the 10-inch hole. Come on, man. Manticore general setting. Nine-inch quarter. Equinox, I have the recovery speed on 4. Yeah, there's clearly something else interfering here. The machines are hitting it to their credit. But there's something else that's there, like rattling the Equinox. The Equinox hitting it. All right, we did 9, 10, now we're at 11 inches. All right, so again, we're at sensitivity 27. Now, we weren't hitting it. Ground balance, let's take off ground tracking. Tracking is off. The book says put it to 0. Ground balance is at 0. Now, recovery speed 4. Let's lessen it to 3. Let's go back and let's noise cancel. Hold the coil still and far away from metal. I got metal all over the place. Let's hold it down. Let's do the triple. Well, there we go. And let's see if that makes a difference. And let's put it into recovery mode. Okay, let's go back and let's rewind this for a second. Let's look at that same ground at the very beginning of the video. Please note that in the area of the test garden here, there's no iron. The only thing that changed was I put the silver coin in on a plastic fork. Could the multi-frequency be searching for so many things and hitting the iron? I could only speculate. There apparently is iron in it. I mean, we heard that with other detectors, but I searched this ground at the very beginning. There's nothing there. Now, this really makes you think, and in one way, it should make you happy. For the simple reason it goes to show that there's a lot that is left in the ground that is being masked. These detectors are so sophisticated at unmasking objects around iron, but you can see what a little bit of iron does. Now listen to all that irony sound. That was not there before. Now let's take this out. No, actually, first, let's do the Equinox, then we take this out. All right. Same response. All right, let's turn this off. Let's go through the settings, okay? Not turn it off yet. As we go through the settings of the Equinox, I think there is something to be said about the Manticore and the Equinox being stumped at the same point. Okay, first, let's turn off the tracking. Let's go back to 0. And Let's go put this down 1 to 3. Noise cancel, hold on. Trying to get something, but isn't. All right, now let's try the single frequency modes. Nothing there. 10. 15. 20. 'Okay, let's put these back to multi and search mode. Let's go Goldfield. Sensitivity we're gonna have to lower. That seems stable. Let's wait till the numbers clear. Hello.
Is this where you want to be buried?
Kind of. It's a little small.
You're going to close this hole.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Bye.
Love you.
Love you too.
What do you think? Is it hitting that? Look at those numbers. Seems to be catching the iron. Can you hold this for a split second? I want to see if the numbers... See, it's happy to see you. Look at that. I want to see if the numbers change in the gold mode. It was not hitting it. It was hitting the iron. Your husband's pretty smart sometimes.
What day is it?
All right, so the quarter is out. There it is over there. Turned on the Manticore again. Now, maybe a little bit of iron over here, but not much. Not anything that should really throw off a detector. But let's try this one more time. So down here, all right, it's in. And let's blast the sensitivity. No, before we blast the sensitivity, let's go all-terrain high conductors. Nothing. Now, let's blast the sensitivity. So, as this test went on, it was pretty clear to the left there was iron that was affecting the results. And I had to think of a creative way to continue the test. Check this out. All right, so just in case if there is iron up in here that we're missing, what I'm going to do is actually lower this hole so that the bottom comes down to the bottom of this. All right, same depth, and we're going to do this as an action shot. Manticore is on. I think that's pretty conclusive. So I've said in videos recently that I'm seeing similar depth results with the Equinox and the Manticore. Let me go a little bit further and say, smaller objects I'm getting deeper with the Manticore. There's no question about that. But for the most part, if we're talking about absolute depth, I see it as very similar to what the Equinox brings. Again, I've swung the Equinox a lot longer than the Manticore, but this is current observations. All of this should be peer reviewed, but we have 2 more detectors to go, and we have even more. We're going to take an even deeper dive in this later, so stay tuned. Days 2, 10 inches. That's a hit. Legend, 10 inches. Getting it one way some of the time. I'm going to say that's a no. All right, so we are, adjusting the recovery speed on the Legend. Let's go slower. And let's do a ground balance. It's getting it one way more than the other. I'm pushing it into the ground, nothing. I'm gonna say no for that. The other thing that I did, I switched modes from park to field. You know, it made little difference in this test. Days 2, 11 inches. Not getting it. Deus, 11 inches. We turned the reactivity down to 0. Let's turn up the audio response. Just so we could hear deep. That's as close as we get to hitting the 11-inch quarter. But we have sensitivity jacked. It's somewhat of an unstable device right now. Thoughts? This should be peer reviewed and this should be redone by somebody else. 2, there should be happiness from this test because it goes to show what we know already. There's stuff deep in the ground that we cannot get to yet, even with these advanced detectors. Each one takes a little bit of a step forwards, but there's still a deeper level. There is still a masked level. That's important for you to know. So here's the controversial one, and I want your thoughts on this in the comments. I think simultaneous multi-frequency is more about the first 9 inches from the grass down, it makes great sense of everything in that range. I don't really see massive improvements in depth compared to detectors of generations ago. I think that my deepest pulls have been on beaches, and the soil I'm really starting to consider around here. You hear the word mineralization and you hear masking also. Masking's well documented with iron, but the mineralization levels in the soil directly affect depth. How magnetic your soil is affects depth. But I do know how magnetic my soil is. But we're going to take this a step further. I've got my magnet from the one magnet fishing video that I did. Let's give him a little product placement right there. There we go. Whale fin. Yeah. Let's put it in a bag. And mineralization. Yeah. It's common knowledge that there's no real limit in terms of depth. It's really spot to spot. And it really depends on the amount of iron in the ground. And I actually did, you see, we have some stuff here. It's still clumped. The Deus actually has a measure on a scale up to 99 of how magnetic your soil is. It's called a ground grab. All right, so I'm doing a ground grab in my backyard. 78. Compared to other parts of the country, that is not a high number. 78 is not a high number. If you talk about Virginia and the iron that's down there, it would be much higher. That directly affects depth. I'd call it mildly to moderately mineralized. But my ground is very polluted. I've removed a number of the iron objects, but again, the leached out dirt remains. The halo might be broken, but there's still remnants of that iron in the ground. That's all for today. I'm working on a video that takes a deep dive into mineralization and what it is, how it affects metal detectors. It affects depth, but going beyond that. So anyway, stay tuned for that. If you haven't hit like and subscribe, what are you waiting for? Thanks for watching, everybody.